Hey, this is Josh Boyd from Fight Church in Las Vegas, and I wanted to share just a short message to hopefully inspire us and help us to be the best that we can be. And I wanted to start off by sharing a short story with you about the country of Romania. Back in 1989, there was a dictator that took power in this country, and he wasn't a good guy. And so in protest to some particular stances that he had taken on religion, basically he came out and said, hey, in 25 years, the people of this country will not even remember Christmas or Easter because we have to get rid of that stuff. That's bad ideas and not going to fly under my rule. Well, in protest, there was 15 small children that gathered on the steps of this super old church, 16th century church. They gathered there on the steps and they were singing hymns and praying in protest. Nothing else crazy going on, no violence, just singing hymns and praying. And it began to gather some attention, and so this dictator got scared and he sent in his secret police, and instead of just removing the kids and taking them and locking them up or sending them home or whatever, he chose to have his secret police murder these kids. And so they got mowed down with AK-47s, very horrible. And unbeknownst to him, this actually sparked a revolution. And people from all over the country, they band together and they began to come to this church and hold a candlelight vigil. And they began to sing hymns and they began to pray, and that influenced, the person next to that person and their friends and their family, until eventually there was a groundswell, and this regime was ousted from the country. And they do things a little bit different over in Romania, but this dictator was actually executed on national television, and ironically it was on Christmas Day. And the reason that I wanted to share that short story with you is that we live in a scary time right now where things get crazy. And here in the United States, we don't normally have kids protesting with hymns and prayer getting mowed down by AK-47s. But the point that I wanted to share with you is that these children, they basically sparked this revolution that turned around this entire country. And all they did was something very simple. And we can do the same thing. We can cause change in our sphere of influence, in our little world, and in the world proper, just by doing small things. I wanted to read a scripture to you out of Matthew 25:31 through 46. And it's a pretty common scripture that you're familiar with, at least the concept of. And so I was going to read it out of the Message, the paraphrased version of the scriptures, just to give it a little bit of a different twist. And this is what it says. It says, when he finally arrives, blazing in beauty, and all his angels with him, the Son of Man will take his place on his glorious throne. Then all the nations will be arranged before him, and he will sort the people out, much as a shepherd sorts out the sheep and the goats, putting the sheep on the right and the goats on the left. Then the king will say to those on the right, enter, you who are blessed by my Father. Take what's coming to you in this kingdom. It's been ready for you since the world's foundation, and here's why. And this is really the part that I wanted you to hear. I was hungry and you fed me. I was thirsty and you gave me drink. I was homeless and you gave me a room. I was shivering and you gave me clothes. I was sick and you stopped to visit. I was in prison and you came to me. Then those sheep are going to say, Master, what are you talking about? When did we see you hungry and feed you, thirsty and give you a drink? And when did we see you sick and in prison and come to you? Then the king will say, I'm telling you this solemn truth. When you did one of these things to someone overlooked or ignored, that was me. You did it for me. And then he goes on to kind of describe the exact opposite scenario of us choosing not to help those people. That is such an amazing story because it tells us that when we help other people, we're actually doing it not only because of Christ in us and because of what we believe, but also we're doing it as unto him himself. And that's pretty amazing. Compassion is seeing the needs of others and being sensitive to those needs. We know that people are struggling. We know that people need stuff all around us. And it's one thing to say, you know what, they need that. It's another thing to say, you know what, I'm going to do whatever I can to help them. And it's easy for us to make excuses, you know. It's easy for us to say, hey, I'm busy, or I'm on my way here. I got to get out of here because I got such and such coming up, or you know, some of us are struggling ourselves. And so it's easy for us to say, hey, you know what? I barely have what I need. How am I possibly going to help someone else? And some of those are legit, and some of those are stretched, and some of those we use out of convenience. But the point is that there's always something we can do. Jesus longs for us to open our eyes and to see the needs of others and to do something about it. The key is to having compassion and having a broken heart. So I ask you today, do you have a broken heart? I mean, have you become so desensitized? I know for me, you know, the need is so great and we see it so often that sometimes our heart becomes a little bit hard and we see someone in need and we barely even pause and notice those people because we've seen it so much. There's an amazing story about Mother Teresa. When she received her Nobel Peace Prize back in 1979, she was asked by an interviewer, why is it that you've committed your life to the sick and dying in the streets of Calcutta? And her reply was surprising. And this is what she said. She said, I haven't committed my life to the sick and dying in Calcutta. I've committed my life to Jesus, and it just so happens that I see his face in the sick and dying in Calcutta. And I think that that's the big difference. The difference is that we need to start seeing it like it's described here in Matthew, where when we help someone else, we're actually helping Jesus. When we give that person what they need, we're actually doing that as unto Jesus. And that will definitely change our perspective. Maybe we will pause when we see that person in need. Maybe we will work just a little bit harder to figure out a way to help them. Because a lot of times maybe we don't have the answer, but we know someone in our life that maybe could. Maybe we would be the go-between to get that person what they need. But it takes that little bit of effort. It takes us making that connection. When you serve and minister those around you, you're serving Jesus himself. When you tangibly reach out and minister to those in need, you're truly ministering and showing the love of Jesus himself. And you're showing it to Jesus himself. Have you seen the face of Jesus lately? Have you looked around and saw those around you and thought, oh man, I should help that person because it's Jesus? Because that's what we need to do. We need to start seeing the face of Jesus in those around us. God is not necessarily looking for the most talented. I mean, if we look at the story of the dictator in Romania, he used children to spark this huge revolution. And sometimes we're not the most talented. Sometimes we don't have the most resources. But God can still use us. God is looking for someone who's willing, not necessarily the person who has everything going for them. I know sometimes it's frustrating. You look at people that have all kinds of talent and all kinds of resources and maybe a huge platform to operate from, and you think, well, man, if they would just do something. Well, the truth of the matter is that they should be doing it, but we can be doing something and we should be doing something. The truth of the matter is that it only takes a little bit to make a big change. And if we all helped the person to our right or the person to our left, and they did the same, the whole world would be reached just by us turning to the right or to the left. And so we need to remember that. Maybe you can't help 10,000 people, but if you help one person, and that person helps one person, and so on and so forth, eventually 10 million people will be reached. And so we need to make sure that we are doing everything that we can and we're helping those around us and that we're having compassion and having our heart broken for those people and doing everything we can to see Jesus' face in their face and help them out. I hope that this is encouraging for you. I hope that it gives you hope that even if you're not a millionaire and even if you don't have all the resources in the world, that you can make a real change. And I know that I'm going to start praying and I'm going to start trying to do better. As a matter of fact, one thing that I've done is I've started an ongoing list. I have a notebook that I make notes in all the time for different ministry things and for errands I need to run and different things like that. But I have a page reserved now that is just for prayer. It's just for people that, I meet a fighter on Facebook, or I bump into someone at a fight shop or at an event, and they tell me, oh, my mom is really sick or something like that. Before, I would just diligently try to pray for that person as soon as I could so that I wouldn't forget about it. And then as I would remember them ongoing, I would pray for them more. But now I'm being very, very intentional about making a list and having people's needs and different prayer things. And then also I can go back and I can follow up on those people. I would encourage you to find something like that, something that you can do on an ongoing basis where you could be showing compassion and showing love and helping those around you. Thank you so much. I hope this helps, and we'll continue to do these videos and hopefully help each other be better. Thank you.